We the people of the state of Jefferson, ever mindful of the rights we hold most dear, life, liberty, and property, are compelled to establish this, our new state, for the preservation of these natural inalienable rights. Our mandate for the protection of life, liberty, and property gives urgent voice to our demand for representation that reflects our needs, our history, our culture, and our moral imperfectude. Time has come for 51. This is Terry Rapoza.
And Wynn Carpenter. You're listening to Jefferson State of Mind podcast.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Or I guess we're being podcasted later on tonight. So we are. So good evening, everybody.
6 o'clock Monday.
Yeah.
Cool.
Isn't that great? I'm here with Wynn Carpenter.
I'm here with Terry Rapoza.
We are.
And we're both here with
Tim Garman.
Hey, good morning.
And
or good evening.
Whatever it is, huh?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a lot of fun today. There's some interesting things we're going to be talking about. Tim is a friend. He's someone who cares about his community. He's someone who has been helping the children of our community. Mm-hmm. He is the president of the Happy Valley Elementary School District on their school board. And Tim, just tell us a little bit about yourself a little bit. Who is Tim Garman?
Thank you, Terry. We'll start off with I'm president of the Happy Valley Elementary School District for at least one more day. Tomorrow we have our meeting, and and we have our restructuring meeting tomorrow night. So that could change, and that's okay. But who I am, I grew up off of Gillies Ferry Road, just north of Red Bluff. My parents still live out there, although they are moving to Iowa next spring. They're waiting for the snow to melt. They're done with California. And, it's just unfortunate. It's sad for me, my childhood home and old forts I built as a kid, and they're going to no longer be accessible to my grandkids. So we'll have to start some new traditions with that. But that's where I grew up, graduated from high school in 1986 at a Red Bluff High School. I was a roofer. My grandfather started a roofing business. I don't know the exact time, but I believe it was the early 60s. My dad was a roofer. My two uncles were a roofer. So naturally, I went into that, and there are some people out there that say, oh, he's just a roofer. Well, yeah, technically I am just a roofer. But if you want to look at it that way. But I have a big heart, and I want to help people, and have a wife with 5 kids.
Wow.
And thank you. And 3 grandkids. So life is good, and I've been blessed with all of that. And 2 of my daughters are type 1 diabetics, which you guys may have heard the story by now, which I always want to give a plug to the Diabetes Support Group. We have a Facebook page for that. It's just Children's Type 1 Diabetes Support Group. We help people at this point all across the country and the world. I've messaged with people back and forth from England who have issues with their kids and their type 1 diabetes. Just this last week, I was messaging with a lady in Georgia. So just to kind of give you an idea, I will always find the time when I see a message come across that board, what kind of advice I can give for a newly diagnosed family. Because you think you're going to kill your kid, and it's really not that bad, but you don't know that in the beginning. Yeah. So just to be able to help people is where my heart's at. It was kind of led me to where I was with the school board when I went to work there, or got elected for that position, I guess. Didn't really want to, but it just kind of led me there, and it's been good. I've been able to really, I think, help the community, help the kids, and which is where my heart's at again.
So how long have you been on the school board?
5 years. This is my second term that we're into right now. And I guess I need to give a huge shout out to the redistricting committee, because even though I'm going to be shuffled out of District 2, I will now live in District 5. Once I'm elected as District 2 supervisor, I will get to keep my position on the school board.
Oh.
Because it will no longer be a conflict of interest.
Oh, there you go.
So you got to find the bright side in everything.
You do. The silver lining.
The silver lining. So there it is. But I do enjoy that. And a lot of parents that come up to me and a lot of staff, they just were against the mandates, and we kind of went with that.
So I think the school boards is something that maybe you could explain. What exactly is it that the jurisdiction of the school board that they have? I know a lot of people that are listening. We always hear about a school board. What does a school board do? What jurisdiction do they have? How do they affect our children's lives, and how much power do they have? So maybe explain to us how that mechanism works, because I think a lot of people really don't know.
Well, it's really different, Terry. The number one thing is it's obviously the budgeting and whatnot. But our number one job as a school board is to hire the superintendent and let the superintendent run the school. Okay, that truly is the function of a school board. If we're more involved with that, there's really more than likely there's something wrong.
Oh,
okay. But at this point in time with COVID, obviously everything's wrong.
amen.
Okay, so there's issues with that.
One quick question about when you hire the superintendent. Now, that particular position is something that's state mandated, but you get to hire and fire. Is that the way it works?
That is correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you choose the person whom you believe is going to do the best job at that.
Yeah, we interview the candidates for that position and hire who we feel is the best.
Okay.
Which is what we did. And I feel like we have the good person there. There's not a problem with the superintendent. They have different rules that they have to abide by than we do as a school board because we're technically not a school employee. We're an elected position. So some of the kickback we get from the superintendent and from our legal counsel is they have to uphold the mandates because they legally have to or they can lose their credentials. So their hands are kind of tied in one way. So you get some kickback, some from that. But on our side of the forum, when it comes to the vaccine mandates for children, we're going to lose 30, 40, 50% of our kids if the mandates go through. And as a school board president, my job is to keep that school open.
Right.
Okay. We live in a very rural district that's on the poor side as far as the funds go, as far as families. Okay. You've seen a lot of push right now for homeschool programs. Do you know the homeschools have doubled during COVID? There was 2.5 million kids in homeschools before. There's 5 million now.
I don't doubt it.
And it's going to go up and up and up as these mandates start to take effect. And so some families, they can afford to do that. But in our community, it would be devastating to the kids in our community and the families if they're forced to do that.
Now, does the school board, don't they interpose between the state and to help the school board superintendent and the staff? Don't you stand in between?
Yeah, we are in between.
Okay, so you can protect your superintendent and their credential by them giving them directive on what they need to do and what to follow. Is that correct or no?
No, according to our attorney. Okay.
How about have you talked to another attorney? I mean, just because they have an opinion about something doesn't mean they're always correct.
Yes, I've been personally talking to another attorney trying to get some different ideas with that. But what it is right now is they are being told that they have to uphold the law. Of course, we know it is a mandate. It's not gone through legislation.
So it's not law.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not law in my book. It's not law in the Constitution's book.
Right.
But they are saying this law, they have to uphold it or they risk losing their credential. So it's kind of a battleground right now. But we have given directive when the mandate comes down. We've already voted. We voted unanimously that we will not vaccinate the kids. We will not have it. They can attend school without being vaccinated.
Okay.
Okay. We are one of the first schools, if not the first in California, to take that action. Our attorney was saying there's no action to take because the mandate's not official yet. So we worded it in a way that when it becomes official, okay, we jumped the gun.
Got out in front of it.
Okay. But we did that purposely because we're trying to save our school.
Right.
If we didn't take that action, in October, the kids were going to keep going to the homeschool programs and ditching the school, so to speak.
Right.
And
eventually you'd be a vacant school.
Yeah, if you're going to try to pick up the pieces at the very end, it's way too late.
Right.
So we try to get ahead of the game.
Okay. And you're right about it not being a mandate. I think that we've gone about this a little bit wrong. I know we both have talked to that one gentleman, the attorney.
Mr. Creep.
Mr. Creep.
Yeah.
And that's sort of an odd name for an attorney. Just saying.
Yeah.
No offense, Mr. Creep. But, when we talk about this, we're talking about, okay, the way I have this figured is that we have a superintendent that we have to have via the state. He's beholden to the state, but he's hired and fired by the school board.
Right.
Okay, so the jurisdiction really of the school board is, how can they move him into complying with, say, not any mandate? Now, we know mandates aren't law. Where do your civil rights, namely civil rights number 54, or 51, your civil rights, and what about the issue of if in fact a child, because of this particular mandate you'd have maybe with a mask, gets an infection, gets sick because of that. It's proven it's because of that. Who has the liability? Does the school board have the liability, or does the superintendent have the liability? Does the school district have the liability? How does that work?
As far as I understand this, Terry, is it would fall under the school district, and our insurance would pick up the pieces and cover that. However, would we go against the mandates? The insurance was flipping the coin, so to speak. If a child gets COVID at school and it came from little Johnny down the hall, then the school or the parents could come after us individually because we ignored the quote unquote mandate laws, and we would not be covered under the insurance.
Even though it's not law.
That's what we're being told.
Wow.
Well, wait a minute here. Okay, so if somebody gets COVID and they get sick, then they can go after you individually. I'd like to know where that is.
Right.
Because the only way they could do that is with, it would be, let's see,
Well, there's got to be
Title 41, 1983 of the United States Code. That'd be the only place that they could sue legally.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out how that works because, see, if they get COVID and they get sick, or they get an infection and they get sick, don't they get sick both ways? And what you're saying is that your insurance doesn't cover anything as far as COVID goes.
This is what we're being told from the higher up, so to speak, that we run that risk. Whether it's a scare tactic or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how legally they could do that because sick is sick.
Sick, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But they're saying because we're willfully breaking a law, or we're directing the superintendent to break the law, that it puts us personally liable.
Wow.
Okay, so if in fact the school mandates the state mandates the situation of a mask or even the jab, and the child gets sick, then does that sort of fall into practicing medicine without a license? Whose liability is that? So I think I talked to Mr. Creep about some of these things. Yeah. And I think that what we have to be doing is looking into the law a little bit more, and maybe not so much whether or not, the main thing is people are always afraid of getting sued. I mean, nobody wants to get sued. I guess there's two ways around that. Either you try to avoid that as best as possible, or you're really broke, and then there's nothing to take.
That's where I fall into it, Terry. It's like, I have not much. Take my place, whatever.
Well, what about your constitutional protected rights?
Yeah.
The children have those constitutionally protected rights as well.
They do.
So are we, as adults, allowing their rights to be violated because we're backing away from what we know to be right in our mind, but they're saying that we're legally mandated to do this, which we aren't, but they're saying that?
No, at least a lot of our schools, we're going to protect their rights.
Good to hear.
Yeah, and I know since we did that in October, there's been numerous schools, probably a couple hundred at this point, that have written some sort of at least a resolution letter to the state. Mm-hmm. Those aren't binding like what we did, but at least we got attention, and it was a start. And I've talked to different school board presidents all up and down the state, from San Diego all the way to the Oregon border. So we are making noise, and that was part of the idea, too, of jumping on this in October was if we can get some others to kind of follow suit. There's always power in numbers, right?
Right.
So that's kind of where we were hoping to go with that. And there have been a few other schools who have done the same direction that we did with the directives that we will not force the vaccines.
So how many just off the top of your head that you're aware of, how many schools are you talking, like 10, 5?
Probably 20? More, probably 4 or 5 that have taken the same directive that we have. Okay. Yeah.
And you're the only ones.
There could be more.
And you're the only ones in Northern California?
I don't know what Oak Run has done. I know they were trying to do something similar, so they may have. They're a smaller district than we are.
Right.
But there are other schools. There's some down in, it's not Sacramento County. It's just east.
So Solano County or someplace over there?
Yeah, it's maybe Solano.
Okay.
It's not Yuba. It's not
Yolo or anything?
Maybe Yolo.
Okay.
No, I'll have to go back to my list and check that. But there are other schools that are jumping on board.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Just the resolution letters.
Was it Colusa?
It was not Colusa.
Okay.
It was further east up in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas.
Do you happen to know by chance how many school boards there are in the state?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious because, I always look at things like, through the counties, there are, 3,600 plus counties in the country. And so just, equating that to what we're dealing with here, okay? If we replicated it everywhere and just spread like wildfire, problem solved, right?
You hope so.
You would hope, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've certainly, this word mandate is interesting because it's not law, as we all know.
Right.
It isn't legislative, as we all know. And the only way that you can, a mandate can work is if you comply with it. I would argue submit to it.
Yeah.
And when if you're forcing children to get a vaccine and they get sick or they have a reaction, but you force them, aren't you assuming a physician's role?
Yeah.
Or are you? I mean, that's a question.
An interesting point, right? I don't want to be the one to direct that. I mean, I would want my doctor, when I had COVID, my doctor treated me the best that he knew from my personal medical history, right? So what gives me the right as a school board president to say to the little kid, I have no idea what your medical history is, but you're going to take the shot today.
Right.
Well, see,
I can't do that.
And how can you?
I can't.
And so, has anybody interviewed any of the school nurses about this, or talked to them? Because really and truly, okay, there's a couple of things there. One is, as we just discussed, and that is that you're practicing medicine without a license. Number two, you're violating constitutional rights, the First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, 14th Amendment, on and on and on. Right. So, and again, a mandate isn't law. So again, to me, I'm wondering. And I'll just say this really briefly and we'll get back to what you were saying. I remember that way back when Governor Duke Majan was the governor of California, and there was an issue being brought up in that we should have people who are homosexual be teachers. It needs to be mandated that they're teachers. And the governor's response was, well, it's not really a race, and therefore what it is it's basically it's a choice that you have, in your sex life. So if that's the choice you have, it's got nothing to do with discrimination or race. It's sort of the same thing with you guys. If you look at the parallel, by saying you need to mandate something in a school, you need to do this, but you aren't a physician, so you can't do this. It ain't my job, man.
Yeah, I can't mandate that. I mean, I don't think the governor's trying to, and the president's trying to as well. They're trying to push this as far as they can. And I would imagine, like all things, there's probably strings attached to the mandates and the COVID money that's coming through, and it's sad.
And that's how they always get us, the strings.
Yep. It's all those strings.
Those strings every single time.
Everything has something attached to it.
Well, and the beauty of it is, I believe, in our county, and I worked for the county for a number of years and saw numbers and talked to people and so forth, and over the years, have learned a bunch. And I believe that we could totally sustain ourselves on the taxes generated here in Shasta County.
That's how we did it before COVID.
That's how we did before COVID. And, we could do that without the strings attached.
Yep.
Always. Every day of the week, we could do it. And that trickles to the schools.
Yep.
All the money generated here in the county. And if we need to offset more money to go to the schools and pull it back away from other services that are either wasted or not compliant, not efficient, what have you, then maybe that's a job that needs to be dealt with, at another time. But I mean, maybe that's something that can and should happen.
Yeah, maybe we have to do something.
Yeah, we have to do something, right?
Getting back to the school board, so the jurisdiction among or the job description of the school board basically is that of hiring the superintendent, making sure that that you have money amply to run the schools. Is there anything else in that particular? Is there any other functions?
No, that's pretty much the two main functions of that position, and it's you have some personnel issues that come up and from time to time, but it goes to the superintendent first, and we'll come back to the board, and those sort of things happen time to time.
Have you found that that the other people on the board are in agreement with you for the most part, and other people have come to you and talked to you about the issues they have on their board and how they're like-minded?
Yes,
like
I have had numerous school districts locally as well come to me and beg for me for how did you do this? What did you do? Their board will be kind of split. How do we get them to come on board? My advice is always the same. Just keep pushing. Have your parents come to these school board meetings. Have them speak out. If they come and they speak, if all of a sudden 30, 40 people are showing up at a school board meeting and say, hey, I'm going to pull my kid out if you force this, that has power. Mm-hmm. So that's my number one suggestion with that. As far as our board goes, we seem to be pretty much in agreement with the mandates for the kids. We voted 4-0. We had one person who was hunting. He was not there, to ignore the mandates with the vaccines for the kids. For the teachers, it was a 3-1 vote. So we're pretty much in agreement with that. And I think that we're going to stay with that course. I can't speak for everybody else, since I don't know when the time actually comes. Are we going to be outlaws? I mean, that's what they're making us out to be, criminals. If we follow through with if it goes through legislation and becomes official. At that point, yeah, I guess I'd be a criminal because I wouldn't force it on the kids.
Well, yeah.
You have to wrestle with your morals and your conscience and everything else. How do you do this? How do you subject children to something that we all know or assume to know is not right? Why would you ever go down that road? And then when you do get to the pearly gates, you're going to have to answer for that.
Yeah, well, I won't go down that road, Lynn. It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
They can come and take me away first.
I think you don't have to. I think that the things we've talked about, you don't have to. I mean, it's just not my job. Show me where it's my job.
Right.
I'm not a physician. And you made such a great point, Tim, about the fact that you don't know the child's medical history.
Yep.
Right.
And once they get this jab, they can't take it back.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no leaching it out of their body.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, good grief. And what happens to, the invasion of all the body parts, the organs and everything
We
else.
don't know. It hasn't been tested.
And we
long
don't
enough.
know exactly. It hasn't been truly tested. And good grief.
Well, I know the thing, if it's all about avoiding COVID, I mean, look at all the athletes as you look through football season, baseball season, that teams, one particular football team had 7 fully vaccinated coaches that got COVID again. I mean,
Right.
So, the science isn't there. I think that a lot of the people on the school boards, they have to, you've shown some real backbone, my friend. You've shown some courage, some backbone, and it's sort of like, and I know that, that fear creeps in with all of us. It's something to where you're a little nervous about things. How did you deal with the fact that, maybe the government might be watching you, et cetera, et cetera? How did you deal with that?
Well, I just told my family, don't let anybody in the house. If they come out there, we'll meet you outside and we'll have a conversation. But I haven't had anybody do that yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I'm not worried about it. I have nothing to worry about in my mind. I'm doing what I have to do, what is right, and leave it to the Lord to take care of it from there.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I think faith enters into this so much for everybody. And I mean, that's the key to this.
Yeah.
So also, when you talk about the superintendents, is there any particular anything as far as the superintendents go that you can correct, or do you have any jurisdiction over anything they do other than the hiring and firing? And because you said they basically are bound to the mandates, they have to do that. How does all that work?
They are bound to the mandates according to our legal counsel, and I think most of the schools in Shasta County use Lozano Smith for that. Correction, real quick. Our superintendent, it's a lady. She's very good.
Good.
Shelley Craig.
Good.
Just to correct that from earlier.
Sure.
But the advice I give for them is to just listen to your parents. A lot of these people, these superintendents, have been sending out studies asking the parents, what would you do if this is fully forced? And you're seeing some of these studies come back, 50% of the kids are going to be pulled from the school. So they're starting to wake up a little bit too, like, okay, well, what can we do to keep these kids in school? Some of them are thinking we can do a independent study program. Well, we all know that doesn't work. If you try to do that, our kids are going to suffer big time academically.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's not the answer. So then how do we balance it as a board? I think yesterday Governor Newsom came about, well, the boards are going to figure it out when it comes to dividing the kids. Well, why are we dividing our kids?
Right.
I thought we're past that point in history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's frustrating.
Yeah. I think that, our next segment, we're going to be talking a little more about the politics. But I think that something you said just before we started the program, I think it was great. You said you've met so many good people, and there's so many people that are standing up for the liberty that their children have to have, and their constitutionally protected rights. I mean, there's people like the Reeds and the Gormans and all these great people. Tell us a little bit about that, and I think the strength and that camaraderie is really important.
I think it gives us a little bit more power, just knowing we have some support. Like you're saying, when that fear creeps in and you're like, oh man, what if? well, guess what? So-and-so's got my back. So-and-so's got my back. You just know that you have more people that are like-minded who feel truly that they need to uphold the Constitution. And even if this stuff becomes law, it's still tyranny, and we don't have to follow it. I mean, we don't. We have the right not to.
We have an obligation not to.
Well, thank you. We have that obligation. So, it just knowing that the people out there that feel like we do, and that somehow we're going to make this work.
Well, and you can also, too, you can reach out to those fellow neighbors, and talk to them about where they're coming from, too, because some of them are teachers, some of them are healthcare workers.
Yeah.
I mean, all walks of life, law enforcement.
Yeah.
Their parents, exactly. And they may not be in your district, but they're going to be feeling the same thing in the district that their kids go to. So it's good to get all that feedback, and it helps you to wrap your head around it, to know that, like you said, you're not alone, and you can go through the process knowing that you're not alone, and you're gaining more information and confidence in what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yeah, it just feels good to know that you have other people helping you.
You made a good point, because really what is law may not be legal, and what is legal may not be lawful.
Right.
And that's why even in the California Constitution, in Article 3, Section 1, the Constitution of the state of California specifically states that the state of California recognizes the Constitution of the United States of America as the supreme law of the land.
Right.
And California is an inseparable part of that. Everyone who's any elected official can use that. What that means is basically that the United States Constitution trumps, no pun intended, yeah, there is, the state of California's Constitution.
Right.
Also in Article 20, when everybody takes their oath of office in the California Constitution, it specifically lists the United States Constitution first, because the idea of government and the way God instilled government is that government basically is there to protect the rights of the sovereign. That's the only function of government.
Right. Protecting your rights
of the sovereign. So you, my friend, are protecting the rights of the most vulnerable in our society, our children. We have about 3 minutes left. I want to just give that to you on, your thoughts about where we go from here as far as the school boards and what people can do.
Thanks, Jerry. From here, we just got to keep fighting. We got to keep pushing. We got to keep putting the pressure onto the school boards and the superintendents and even your county superintendents of schools. Keep putting letters out. Keep writing letters to the Start with your school board. Go to the meeting. Make your voice heard. Call the school. Email this county superintendent. Email your representation too as well across the state. I know I haven't gotten any response with that, but I've tried. And it's the more noise we make, the more likelihood that we're going to be heard.
That's right.
So I think that's the main objective where we need to go from here. And then just get together, find a group of people who think like you do, and go to one of these little outreach meetings that are happening, and see what you can do to help the cause.
Well, I think one thing that would be great is, folks, when you watch this, please share it. Share it on whatever social media you have. You can find this program if you search engine Jefferson State of Mind, MINE. You can find us on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Mountaintop Media. But watch this and share it. We're doing this. No one's getting paid to do this. In fact, we pay a lot of money to do this.
We pay him to do it.
Yes. In fact, we need money to do this.
That's right.
So, it's one of those things where we have to make sure that the word really gets out. Because what Tim's saying here can resonate among many counties. And we have had that particular situation where we've combined counties, Butte County, Colusa County, Sutter County, Yuba County,
up and down the state.
Yeah. And I think it's a great thing you're doing, my friend. Anyway, so the teachers. What's your general sense of the teachers as far as their thoughts on these mandates? We've got about a minute left.
From the teachers, I hear it both ways. Okay, that's difficult to hear. Some of the teachers completely agree with the mandates. Some do not. So where do you find that balancing act? You don't. You just have to do what's right in your heart and uphold the Constitution, and hope for the best. Because I'm not going to go against that. But I have had complaints both ways. So.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for this, and you're an amazing man, and God bless you, and we thank you for your courage, and we'll go on to the second segment of this program. This segment will be out tonight, Monday night at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
Our second segment we're going to do is going to be out Thursday night at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
And we'll be right back with Tim Garman. Time has come.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tim, for 51.
It has.
Hey, CA, come out and play. Have you seen the bill we all have to pay? It's not our bill. We had no say. You don't serve us, you serve us.